This is your 5-minute call, Meet Goat Class 1, 5-minute call. Class 1 to the gate. Class 1 to the gate.
Good afternoon, folks. It's really a pleasure and an honor for me to be here with you today. I really look forward to the chance to come out and get to sort through these weathers and meet goats in general. I really appreciate these kids and the work and the effort that they put forth with these projects. Lots of quality in here. I think the kids all did a good job and took care of the basics in terms of feed and nutrition and their programs, et cetera. But I thought that these three rose to the top for me. I do think that there's lots of differences in these this initial trio of goats. There's lots of EST terms that you can use for each of those weathers, different things I like about each of these guys. Young lady to my right has the one that by far and away is simply the stoutest today. He's a little quicker in his maturity pattern, which is something I don't like. That said, he does have the advantage of being a little more mature. He's really stout when you get right behind his shoulder. He's got a great big rack, a big loin, and he easily has the most width through the center part of his body when you view him through his chest. Get around behind him, he has the most shape in his leg. He's the deepest in his twist. There's just simply the most product in this one. Wish he was a little longer, wish he was a little prettier, but my goodness, he's really stout, really pulled apart, and has a ton of mass and shape to him. Still acceptable in terms of the way he handles his feet and his legs, and acceptable in terms of his build and balance from the outside. Now, the young lady's goat that comes second, when she gets him propped up and cranked and looking right, I think that this one's probably my favorite, just in terms of his general build and his type and kind. Goat that cuts a pretty nice look from the profile. He's expressive in his muscle pattern. He's very attractive in terms of his look from the outside, nice and level down his top. And when I come in for close inspection, while he doesn't have near the mass and the volume of muscle of our class winner, certainly one that has some expression and some tone and some touch. I think this guy's got a lot of good in him. There's just simply not quite as much of him when compared to our class winner. I wish he was just a little stouter. Wish he was a little further along and had more mass in him as compared to a really stout one that wins. Young man's goat that comes third is a really interesting one. This one's probably the longest, probably the prettiest. Really like this one when he goes in motion from the side. I think one that's extremely long and extended through his front 1/3. Balances up nice from the outside. You get your hands on him. He doesn't have as much shape as the two that beat him today. You watch this one walk away off of his rear two legs. He wants to track a little closer than is ideal for me. He wants to be a little narrower in his pin set as compared to the two predecessors ahead of him in class. That said, he still reads with a ton of quality. It's obvious that one's got a lot of good things going for him in terms of his general build and body. From there, the young lady's black-headed goat, one that's really stout when you get your hands on him, probably needs an extra shot of rib shape, probably needs to be a little bolder in terms of his center body as compared to the three that are a little more athletic in their type and kind ahead of him, but one that you gotta like for his foot and for his bone. Again, one that has some base width and has some just general stoutness to him. Again, like to make this one a little more powerful in terms of his rear leg, like to make him a bit rounder in his rib, give him more foundation for a bigger top. Still one that's got a lot of product. The young lady's doe kid that comes next is one that's pretty long and extended, certainly one that's got some balance. I think that this one just kind of runs out of gas as compared to the more mature goats ahead of her in class. I think this is a doe kid that's nice, certainly one that has some touch and some tone. For me, just needs an extra shot of mass and power as compared to the stouter ones ahead of her in this particular set. This dapple goat that's next, I think one that's fairly uniform in terms of his look. I think one that's got some good things going for him in terms of his balance. Another one, though, that I think just needs an extra shot of power. Another one that I think could use an extra shot of mass when you get right down to it. Start evaluating him on the top side of his skeleton. The young man here in the turquoise shirt, I think, has one that's needs an extra bit of groceries, a little longer feeding phase. I think this one's just extra green today. That said, this goat has some base width. He has some bone, or she rather. I think a goat that has some good things about her in terms of her overall build. Again, just need more mass today, needing that extra time on feed to reach her full potential. From there, this painted up goat, I think one that wants to get a little easy in his pasterns, we'd like to fix him there, and I think ideally give this one more shape and mass to the outside of his rear leg. Then the young lady's wether that rounds out the class, I think one that's, again, extra skinny today, but still reads with some decent lines. I think one that ideally just needs more pounds of feed. He just needs a little more time, again, to reach his full potential. But he's level made, he's long and extended, just needs a little more mass. Good job to all these kids. Let's give them a big hand. I appreciate their work.
Class 1 results: first place, Larlin Jones, Goddard FFA, tag 7952. Second place, Riley Miller, Rustic Arrows, tag 7812. Third place, Riley Miller, Goddard FFA, tag 7786. Fourth place, Kylan Thompson, Diamond H, tag 7873. Fifth place, Juliana Dunn, Country Kids, tag 87777. Sixth place, Sarah Knight, Country Kids, tag 7814. Please bring Class 2 to the ring.
Once again, another really nice class that has strong competition. I think that there's high quality stock in this one for sure. Again, some differences to be talked about in the initial trio. I think the young lady's spot top goat, though, wins pretty handily. I think this one's easily the best in terms of her body. I think that this one's really good in her underline and her top line. She reads with a lot of quality, whether she's stuck or on the move. If you want to get hypercritical of a good one, maybe like to fix her just in her front knee just a little bit, maybe square her up just a touch off her back too. But this is one that certainly has a ton of power, one that has a ton of body shape and build and balance to go along with that muscularity. I think that that one rises to the surface for me with relative ease. The young lady's weather goat that comes second behind that one is the most similar in terms of his muscle shape and his body width. This guy's big in his rib, he's big in his forearm, has lots of shape in his rear leg, lots of width, stifle to stifle. Probably doesn't have that touch, that tone, that definition that we see in our class winner in terms of his back shape. But that said, this guy's got a ton of volume and mass and shape up high. Doesn't put it together in quite as neat a package, and isn't quite as well made in terms of his body and his look from the outside. But this is still a high quality goat that's got a ton of product and power. Like him a lot in that second hole. The young man's goat that comes third has some really awesome things about him. This one's probably my favorite when he gets him right from the outside. He really has a lot of elevation in his front 1/3. He really ties his neck in high at the point of his shoulder, very uniform and level down his top. This one looks a lot like a sheep to me, which is definitely a good thing, and I love that about him from the outside. Like the chest width that he has. Get around behind him, he's starting to give up some leg. He's starting to give up some pin width as compared to the two stouter made ones right ahead of him. And where this guy really has a fault as compared to those that beat him today, he's just simply not as ready. He doesn't have near the width, he doesn't have near the depth, especially as you handle him there over his loin edges. This guy isn't as far along, he's simply not as ready. But wicked good looking from the side, has some really exciting things about him. Still a really, really high quality, nice animal. Same could be said for the young man's goat that comes fourth here. I think that this one's hard to punch a hole in. He's just simply not quite stout enough as compared to those that are a little further along. I don't think he's quite as good looking as the goat that's third. He's definitely not as stout as the two that stand in first and second. I do think that this one has some better days ahead of him. If he has somewhere to go after this, the longer you feed this one, the better he'll get, because he's good in terms of his build and his body and his type and kind. Just needs some more mass down his top to play in these big weight ranges today. Good job to this young man. Next goat that comes back out here, I think one that certainly has some expression, some tone and definition can be found in this one for sure. When I come in and touch this guy, he feels pretty good, especially right behind his shoulder in terms of his rack. Starts to get a little finer in his bone work, wants to start to get a little plainer in his look as compared to the ones that beat him today, but still a goat that's got lots of product and lots of good to him. I think that's a high quality one. The young lady's goat that comes next poses some problems in class. He's obviously big-footed and stout, one that we really need to see corrected in terms of his structure, though. I need to see this guy better in his top line, need to see him move with more freeness about his rear leg. I'd like to see this guy just better in terms of his general build for him to sort up in class, but you got to love him for his stoutness, certainly one that's hard-muscled and has some product to him for sure. The young lady in the pink here has a nice goat that I think is a doe kid that to me just needs a little more roundness in terms of her center body. She wants to get a little flatter about her rib than is ideal for me, and correspondingly, she doesn't have as much top side power and shape. The young lady's doe that comes next, I think one that to me is, again, just a little green and a little plain in terms of her handle today. Just need to see this one with more shape and product overall. Again, in these larger weight range type classes, one that's just getting a little bit out-horsed. The young lady's goat that comes next is one that I think has some base width, certainly. A goat that's relatively level in terms of his look from the outside. One that for me just needs more shape and mass, especially there over his loin edges, for him to move up in class. The young lady here in the purple, I think this is one that to me just needs some more days on feed. I think a doe kid that's really, really skinny and raw today, I think as that one matures out, she'll just get better and better. And then the young lady's whether that rounds out the class, one that wants to get a little narrower in his pin set than is ideal for me, a little flatter in his rib. And again, is simply just pretty skinny, pretty green today. Still a fairly nice goat, though the balance is up nice from the outside. Good job to these kids. I appreciate their work. Y'all give them a hand, please.
Results for Class 2, first place, Riley Miller, Goddard FFA, tag 7784. Second place, Kason Hopper, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7957. Third place, Aiden Kelly, Roswell FFA, tag 7767. Fourth place, Caden Brink, Dexter FFA, tag 97778. Fifth place, Kason Hopper, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7955. Sixth place, Crossland Matthews, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7774. Please bring Class 3 to the ring. Our judge today is Mr. Jessup Yeaman, who grew up in a ranching community, grew up ranching near the community of Rock Springs, Texas. He obtained a bachelor's degree in animal science and a minor in business administration from Texas A&M, and while there was a member of the many-time champion 2007 livestock judging team. He received his master's degree in animal science from Angelo State University. Jess has judged market goats or lambs at numerous shows across the nation, including Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, San Antonio Livestock Exposition, Kansas State Fair of Texas, Iowa State Fair, Kentucky State Fair, the Dixie National, and a multitude of others. He is currently employed as a vice president and branch manager for Texas Farm Credit in Uvalde, where he and his family also raise commercial cattle and club lambs. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Yeaman. Pre-booster and booster showmanship will be held immediately following the grand drive. You can sign up at the west end of the ring and get a pink number.
Well, once again, a real good class. The kids have done a real good job in this one in terms of the stock that they brought me. Definitely some challenging decisions to be made. Certainly some goats that surprised me when I got my hands on them, some for good reasons, others for bad. But I do think that the young lady's wether that sorts up to the top does so relatively handily. I think he's probably the most ready to go in terms of the way he looks and the way he feels today. He's got a big rack. He's got a lot of width off both ends of his skeleton. He's got some power in his rear leg. He's got some shape down his top, and he ties it together with a really good look from the outside. Like the way that this guy carries his spine and his body as he goes quite a bit. Like the way he looks from the outside when the young lady gets her leg in him as well. He's a long, extended one that's still really level in his top. Handles his feet and legs with adequate integrity. I think that one has some muscle and stoutness to go along with that cool show ring look. I think he ties things together relatively easily to win. The young lady's goat that comes second is one that's the most like him in terms of his build and his design. Handles his feet and legs and his top line well. Really skinny as compared to our class winner. I think that this one could use some more days on feed. Probably needs to be a bit bolder and rounder in his rib shape as compared to that one that beats him. But this is still a high quality piece of livestock that's just going to get better if you have the opportunity to feed him later on. The young lady's goat that comes third is kind of an interesting one that I thought initially matched up really well with our class winner. He's obviously really big in terms of his foot. He's got some stoutness in terms of his center body, like the width he has through his chest, like the width he has from behind. This one handles his body fairly well as he goes. Get right up on top of this one. He's surprisingly round and plain there over his loin edges. He doesn't have much rack shape, doesn't have that turn and that expression of muscle that we need to see and that volume of muscle that we need to see down his spine that needed to compete with those two above him today, unfortunately. That said, you get that one right down his top, and I think he'll do really well for you because he's a good made goat that's got some quality, has some nice things about him in terms of his build and his design. Good job to this young lady. The young man's doe kid that comes next, obviously very stout. She's got a lot of turn to her lower leg. This one has a big top. I think some of that is fat, though. We need to trim this one up. We need to make her lighter in her condition for her to scoot up in class today. But you got to love the power that she does have. Really appreciate that. Young man here in the purple has one that's incredibly stout. Maybe the boldest turn to this one's top is anything we see in class. Got a lot of shape in his leg as well. One that we need to see corrected from a structural standpoint. Need to see him longer and more extended through his front 1/3. Need to see him truer and squarer off of his rear leg and more correct in the way he handles his feet and legs when he goes. All that said, a super product-filled type goat that's got a great big groove down his back. Really like him for those reasons. The young lady in the yellow shirt here has one that to me is just not quite ready to go in terms of the topside shape that he has compared to his predecessors in class. Need to see this guy with more shape and product on the top side of his skeleton. Need to see him with a bit more shape and lower leg as well when you get around behind him. Young man in the turquoise there has a goat that I think handles his feet and legs really well as he goes, nice and wide on both ends of his skeleton. One that for me probably gives up too much rack shape as compared to those that beat him in class today. Wants to get up on his top a little bit when we get him on the drive. And the young man that has the paisley shirt there, I think has one that's extra skinny, but still has some length of body, has some levelness about his lines, just needs some more days on feed to reach his full potential. Then the young man here, I think, has a wether that to me probably just needs an extra shot of rib shape to be more successful in class. That would lay the foundation for more rack shape and more product and mass on the top side of that one's skeleton. Young lady's doe kid that rounds out the class, one that's a little off balance, doesn't tie things together quite as well in terms of her structure. One that for me, I could use an extra shot of rib, one that could use an extra shot of power in terms of her rear leg in this market class today. Good job to all those kids. Really appreciate their work. Y'all give them a hand, please.
Class 3 results. First place, Riley Miller, Rustic Arrows, tag 7785. Second place, Crossland Matthews, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7773. Third place, Aubrey Prince, Diamond H, tag 7768. Fourth place, Trevor Hotling, Dexter FFA, tag 7767. Fifth place, Wyatt Dennis, Valley Rascals, tag 7783. Sixth place, Sophia Alford, Country Kids, tag 7780. Please bring Class 4 to the ring.
A challenging class to sort and a challenging class to be in if you're one of these kids. There's lots of variation in weight. We've got goats that are skinny. We've got goats that are too fat. We've kind of got the whole gamut of condition phases in terms of where these guys are. Obviously, lots of different sizes in terms of frame. I do think, though, that there's one thing that stands out in terms of power, and that's this black goat. Although he's hard to look at, kind of like a Duroc hog, it's hard to see how much muscle he has. This guy is packing. He's got a great big top, a great big leg. Love the width he has off both ends of his skeleton, just really powerful throughout the center part of his skeleton. Handles his feet and legs pretty well when he goes in motion. I wish he was a little better in his top line. I wish he was a little more youthful. But all that said, that guy still has a tremendous amount of product and shape to him. Still balances up like a true show goat from the outside. Has lots going for him just in terms of the combination of traits that he puts together. This young man's goat that comes in second, kind of like the other one you showed me. This guy's got good front 1/3. He's long, he's extended, he balances up well from the outside. Needs an extra shot of leg when you get around behind him. He simply doesn't have enough depth to twist. He's not as powerful in the outside of his stifle. He doesn't have near the top shape and that crease down his back that we see in the goat right above him. But he's good looking. He's really good in the front 1/3 portion of his skeleton. Balances up real good when he goes. Again, just runs out of gas when I get right behind him. Young lady's goat that comes third is one that's got a great big loin and a big leg, and I think that's what keeps him in the hunt. Don't really like this one as much from the outside. One that gets deeper in his chest, wants to pinch right behind his shoulder a little, gets up in his spine and roaches on us. That said, this guy's got a great big back. He's really fresh. He's really powerful. As compared to a lot of goats we have in class, he's so much more firm. He's so much more ready in terms of the way he's been fed and the way he's fit today. Certainly one that's got some mass and some shape to go along with that tone. I think one that you got to appreciate for the width he has off his back too. As compared to some of the others in class, again, need to keep him down in his top, make him better in his rib, make him more attractive in his build, but he's really stout from behind and again has some big advantages in terms of his loin shape today as compared to the goats on either side of him. A young man's goat that comes fourth is big, stout-footed, really wide-based, certainly one that has some width of body, especially when you get right in front of him. I like this one in terms of his general build and balance when he is set in motion. When he stands and you get your hands on him, he's a little disappointing for as wide as he is. I wish he had more expression of muscle. I wish he had more stoutness. I wish he was a little denser in terms of his muscle pattern. All that said, though, really like the base width that he has, the general build that he has, the way he handles his feet and legs, and certainly one that does have product. He may not touch back quite as fresh and good as some we have in class, but he definitely has that product. Young man's goat that comes next is one that's certainly really muscular, carries a lot of that muscle down low into his leg. I think that this one's starting to show his maturity a bit as you read him through his front 1/3. And while he is big backed, I think that a lot of this guy is getting fairly soft. He's relatively heavy in his condition, really needs to be trimmed up as compared to some we have ahead of him in class today. The young man's long extended goat that comes next is one that he does a really good job of getting shown. When he gets that goat stuck, that one's attractive from the outside. When you set that one in motion or handling without the chain, this one's or handling without being driven just on the chain, this one really gives up the power there behind his shoulder. We need to see him bigger in his rib shape. We need him to have more rack shape, need him to be bigger in terms of his rear leg. But good job to that young man getting him shown for sure. The young lady with the solid red goat here, I think one that's, again, getting pretty soft in terms of his condition. We need to see this one firmed up. We need to see this one with more shape. While he does have that base width, which I like, and he is fairly well balanced, this guy's really soft to the touch. He needs more firmness. He needs to be lower in terms of his body condition. He needs to be trimmer and more athletic. Young lady's goat that comes next is one that's starting to get just out-pounded today. He's really green in class. He has some width. He's got some stoutness in terms of his body, but he just simply doesn't have the pounds of product that we see in some of the others today. He's still really skinny in comparison to some we have out here. Young man's weather goat that comes next, one that's a little flatter about his body, a little off in terms of his build, doesn't tie things together in his need of package. Young lady that comes next does a good job getting this one's head cranked up and making him look right from the outside. Unfortunately, just really skinny today. This guy's just really green. He needs some more days on feed. That said, he reads with a good look from the outside. He's good in his lines, and the young lady's doing a real nice job getting him presented. He just needs a little more muscle to scoot up in this particular group. Then the goat that rounds out the class is another one that I think is a little heavy in terms of condition. We need to see this one trimmed up. We need to see this one a bit more athletic in his type and kind, one that gets pretty soft and plain when I come in for close inspection. Good set again, a challenging class of heavier type goats. Let's give the kids a hand, thank them for their work.
Results for Class 4, first place, Larlin Jones, Goddard FFA, tag 7821. Second place, Aiden Kelly, Roswell FFA, tag 7766. Third place, Crossland Matthews, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7776. Fourth place, Crossland Matthews, Shepherd's Flock, tag 7775. Fifth place, Trevor Hotling, Dexter FFA, tag 7768. Sixth place, Caden Brink, Rustic Arrows, tag 97777. We'll take a 10-minute break before the grand drive. 10-minute break. Pre-boosters and boosters, your showmanship classes will be held together. Booster and pre-booster showmanship will be together. Please bring your first and second place class winners to the gate. First and second to the gate. First place, Class 1, belongs to Larlin Jones. Second place, Riley Miller. Class 2, first place, Riley Miller. Second place, Kason Hopper. Class 3, first place, Riley Miller. Second place, Crosslyn Matthews. Class 4, first place, Larlin Jones. Second place, Aiden Kelly.
If you guys would, put your hands together and thank every kid that showed today for all their work. I know it's hot. I know the goats are tired. The kids are probably tired. I've worked them a long time, but that's a compliment to these guys in terms of the quality of stock that they have. I've also had to make some really challenging decisions on the showmanship side of things while we were evaluating the livestock. And I just want to say to every kid, even those that aren't standing out here, you brought good stock, and I can tell you've worked with them. I can tell you put in some effort in terms of learning your project and feeding them up well and training them up and learning some things yourself about how to get one shown. And it's really a good program. It really is, guys. And honestly, whether you necessarily win today or end up where you want to be or you're not pleased with where you want to be, I guarantee you got something out of it. You learned something about life. I tell you this a lot, other than church itself, there's no better place for a kid for learning other than a stock show. So I really appreciate these kids and the effort that they put in and the time that they get to spend with their projects. It's important. It really is. And I hope that you guys, not just you 8, but everyone that showed today, I hope that they all got to spend some time with their mom or their dad, their friends, their family members, their brothers and sisters. And I hope they cherish that time that they got to spend working these projects, because we're not just raising livestock, guys. We're raising kids. Let's give them all a big hand. In terms of the stock that's out here, I'm real pleased. I thought the kids brought me high-quality ones throughout the day. As discussed, all these classes, they had some challenge to them. There wasn't one that just necessarily absolutely won every class. A lot of those placings down the way, you could jumble those up just about any way you wanted to and talk your way out of it. I think the kids brought me good stock. In terms of the lightweight, obviously one that's really powerful. He's got a great big forearm, a big back, a big end. Maybe one that's not quite ideal for me in terms of his build and the way he gets around the ring, but one that's ultra stout, got a great big cage to him, and just has a ton of center body, and you have to love the product that he brings to the table. Goat that was second behind him, a little flatter in his rib, a little greener today, just doesn't have the mass that we see in the goat ahead of him. But built really well, real attractive. As that one fleshes up and gets deeper in his flank and fills out, I think that one's going to be extra nice down the road. And in Class 2, we had a really powerful doe kid that came in and win. Really like her in terms of her body. She's extra big in her rib shape. She's deep in her flank. If you wanted to get hypercritical of one, maybe a little straight off her back wheels, maybe a little over at her knee when you get to really evaluating her structurally. But that one's one that's, by and large, really high quality in terms of the way she gets around the ring and the way she handles her body and her skeleton's acceptable. And you tie that together with that really cool look and the power that she has, that's a really intriguing class winner there in the second class. The goat that was second behind that one, similar in terms of amount of product. This goat's got a great big back, a wether that's got a great big end, has some product and some shape, didn't tie this together in as neat a package, wasn't as stout at the surface, wasn't as square and true in terms of his feet and legs, didn't balance up as well when you set him in motion especially. Goat that comes in and wins Class 3 as long as a well rope. I think one that's super extended, one that really looks good when he gets around the ring. As compared to the goat that stands behind him, this black goat, I wish that one was a little stouter. I wish he was a little bigger in terms of his rear leg. I wish he was a little wider in terms of his stifle as compared to this extra stout one that's right behind him. And in terms of the way that one looks and the way he's built, really attractive goat that's really, really high quality, has a lot of show ring appeal to him. At the same time, he checks boxes in terms of product. This guy's got a great big rack. He's really fresh and expressive in his rack. He's really fresh and expressive over his loin. He's got some power down in his leg. He's pretty good in his rib. Again, he ties that together with a nice look from the outside. Again, really like that one when he goes in motion. I think that's a real high-quality piece of show stock there that wins the third class. Goat that was second behind him in the third class, I think one that is, as mentioned, just a little greener, but certainly has some base width and has some loin shape, has some stoutness, just not as much total mass and meat today as one that's a little more ready to go that stands right in front of him. It's predominantly black goat that comes in and wins Class 4. Really intriguing. As mentioned, this one's the stout one of the bunch for sure. He has the advantage in terms of pounds of product. Great big back, great big end, lots and lots of leg shape, lots of roundness to this one's rib. He's probably the most mature, obviously, of the four, not only because of his weight, but because of where he carries that weight. maybe one that I'd like to trim up just a bit in his chest and across his rib. But boy, he is massive down his top, and I love the product that he brings to the table. I like this one so much when the young lady has him stuck. Set him in motion, he starts to show that maturity just a scotch. He wants to get down in his chest a little. He wants to break there behind his shoulder just a little. Maybe doesn't balance up quite as neat as the goat that wins Class 3 when you set him in motion. But boy, he's a truck. So much power, so much product. Goat that was second behind him in the heavyweights. One that kind of ran out of gas was a term I believe I used in class, and that's just it. Goat that doesn't quite have that depth of leg shape. He doesn't have that loin edge. He doesn't have that mass and that product down his top that we see in that class winner, but he's real attractive from the side, has a lot of show ring appeal, and is certainly more than acceptable in terms of his cutability. Super good set. I'm going to ask these first places to walk one more time. They'll set, and I'll pick your champion and your reserve. Thank you all for having me to judge your show.
And champion meat goat belongs to Riley Miller, tag 7785. Reserve champion meat goat belongs to Larlin Jones, tag 7821. Boosters and pre-boosters, be ready at the gate, please.